You all know Lou Dobbs, the author of Exporting America, Why Corporate Greed is Shipping American Jobs Overseas. Now, Lou and I have a history. Not long ago, I criticized him in one of my ABC TV specials. I gave him a hard time because he was going on and on about how free trade hurts the middle class.
This country cannot even clothe itself. 96% of our apparel is imported.
But that's okay. We have more choices for less money.
When was the last time you bought a suit of clothes? Because if your prices went down, I would be shocked.
Be shocked, then. Here's the Labor Department's price index for clothing. It's gone down and down.
Then I criticized Dobbs, and this may have been unfair. I may have misunderstood him, but I criticized him for what I'd heard he'd said about immigrants. And on his radio show, he took a shot at me.
What a self-important ass. You know, he is just unbelievable. He doesn't understand basic economics. He's just a silly little, trick waiting to do some sort of libertarian flip. I mean, he's just unbelievable. I just can't wait to, till he starts blowing bubbles on the air. That's just about all he's equipped to do.
I just wanted to... I wanted to show that you were right about something.
Well, I will have opportunity to go beyond that, I'm sure.
Well, you say we need more trade protection, regulations. Why?
Not at all. Not at all. I say that we need more balanced trade, we need reciprocal trade, we need mutual trade policies. And the reason why is so that we are not indulging in labor arbitrage, putting this middle class, which is the foundation of this country, into direct competition with the cheapest labor in the world.
So what policies would you start?
Oh, I would begin by making it a declarative point of leadership, if I were President Obama, that we are going to build manufacturing capacity. We are going to maintain a manufacturing base in this country. We are going to incentivize and align those incentives with industry.
So when you say we, if Obama says it, that means
right.
Subsidies for export business?
Not subsidies at all. Positive leadership doesn't require a programmatic response on the part of government. What it does require is leadership. A man and woman to articulate the realities of the modern American economy.
Well, I just want 3 specific things you would do that would make it better.
Okay, let's start with, right now, I would say that if we're going to trade with China, there's going to be a mutual basis for that trade level. It's that simple.
And what does that mean, a mutual basis?
That means a mutual reciprocal basis for trade.
They have to send as much to us as we send to them. I mean, we have to send us, they have to buy from us.
As a matter of trade policy for this country, we have a $7 trillion deficit to begin with. We have $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities, $14 trillion in national debt. Each of those dollars in deficit and debt is a dollar that we don't have available to invest in our infrastructure, in our youth, and we've got to maintain that. Jeffrey Immelt, the CEO of... if I
understand, just before you go to that, I get that the debt we give for entitlements we don't have. We can't build a road with money we give to somebody.
Correct.
But the stuff that we buy from China, they then buy our bonds, and that bond can be funding the highway. It's not the same as the budget deficit.
So it's really a good thing.
It's a neutral thing. I mean, we ran a surplus during the Depression. That wasn't very good for us.
Well, no, but there are a few other exigent variables at work there. For example, a labor force that at that point was about 25% at its height, unemployed. We have a labor force right now that is approaching 20% in underemployment and unemployment, and there is no discussion of what the impact or the reason for those things are. We don't have robust public debate and discussion in this country talking honestly. I mean, when I talk about mutual, reciprocal, balanced trade, the Bush administration attacked me as an economic isolationist because I was calling for mutuality in trade relationships.
Well, mutuality sounds like rules that restrict trade, and that makes you an isolationist.
Really?
Seems to me.
Now, where did that expression, self-important, what was it? Now, I want to say, and I think in all fairness, we should say, that we've made up on all of that.
And isn't it wonderful to be in a country where we can have vicious debate, argument, and
we can
still
have vicious,
be civilized? We're not shooting each other.
Hey, Lou, can we get you on the record supporting
Sure.
any specific policy that you would support? Anything about free trade?
Absolutely. I support free trade in its entirety. If we had for example, if we did not have an agreement with China, for example, that permitted the United States to export on the same precise level as China may export to our country, that is free trade, right? But when it is a half measure, that is, we are simply opening our economy to China, that's an absurdity for anyone to call it free trade. And I think Don would acknowledge that. Anyone. Free trade.
I wouldn't acknowledge that.
Don, would you acknowledge that?
No, it's not free trade if we restrict our trade with China for any reason.
But if China restricts its trade with us, it's still free trade. Is that right?
It's free trade for us if we don't restrict our trade with China. What the Chinese do is their business. It hurts them. Right? If they throw rocks into their harbors to prevent our goods from getting there, that's their problem. Yeah. We shouldn't throw rocks into our harbors.
You're a very smart fellow. You're a very smart fellow. Explain to me then how it is the United States racked up a $7 trillion external trade debt, and China has over $2 trillion in reserves in our currency, which is a significant power over our markets, don't you think?
No, I don't think. No, actually, I don't.
All right.
No, as I said earlier,
it's not power.
It's not power.
Of course it's not.
No. As I said earlier to John, we ran up a trade deficit because America remains an attractive place to invest, which is one reason why manufacturing output continues to rise. So a trade deficit is a good thing because it means more investment in America.
So you're going to look at the part of the trade, the capital account of the current account, and say, well, that's a neat flow where we end up with our dollars flowing to China. They hold our reserves, that is, claims on this economy, and we are a debtor nation in perpetuity. I mean, that's remarkable economic thinking. I give you credit.
A trade deficit is not the same thing as debt, contrary to what people think.
But debt does arise from deficit, doesn't it?
Not necessarily.
Well, I'm interrupting you to go to someone in the audience here. Yes, sir.
Is there a point, maybe the professor can answer that, is there a point where we do have too much debt to other countries, be it deficit or trade?
Don?
Yes, and the debt that's the problem is the debt that Uncle Sam is running up. I think Lou and I agree on that.
Tom Palmer, you want to add to that?
Well, I think we have to get clear on one thing that Lou Dobbs doesn't understand the distinction. The budget deficit is when the government spends more money than it takes in. That's a budget deficit. And this country is drowning in red ink right now. That's different from the so-called trade deficit, which is foreigners wanting to invest in our economy and in our firms. That's a good thing. If you say trade deficit goes up, the same headline can be rewritten saying more foreigners invest in our economy. Is that bad news? Mr. Dobbs doesn't understand because the same word appears, deficit. It's like thinking that if I pass the bar, it's the same as becoming a lawyer, but what I did was I passed a bar that serves drinks, right? It's the same word.
Wait a second. He went to Harvard here. He's got a BA in economics from Harvard.
Yeah, I found that instructive and enlightening. Because I didn't realize that what was happening is all that money was rushing into the United States economy, and to make people feel better, we were picking up their goods and whatever was left over and bringing it over here. I thought it worked the other way, that our demand was expressing itself first in the form of trade and bringing in imports of goods, services, capital, and the result was that investment in the United States. I guess I had that all out of. You're right. I was very confused.
You're right, Lou. You are confused. The reason is the U.S. is a big attractor of foreign direct investment. People want to invest in this country. That's what finances our trade deficit. It's not the other way around. You need to get straight on this, Lou.
Yeah,